very much, Helen, for that introduction. Thank you to Delena and the ERA team for inviting us. Just to say again, my name is Carmina Domingo, also known as Ynah. So I know people get confused a lot about how to pronounce that, but it's Ynah from Eleison in Cebu, Philippines. We're very excited to be sharing with you today.
Hi everyone, my name is Cheryl Salinas, but you can also call me Chad. I am a photo voice researcher at Eleison and a member of Eleison's Survivor Leadership Council, and I'm also very happy to see all of you here today.
So today, we're excited, very excited, to share with you about survivor leadership in the anti-trafficking movement. We're hoping to share with you some of our experiences at Eleison and to ignite a conversation that spans experiences and insights across this room. The hope is that we can learn from each other about how we can help one another in centering survivor leadership in the Asia region. So just a brief overview of what we will be discussing today are flashed on your screen. First, we'll begin by discussing the importance of survivor leadership in the anti-trafficking movement. Then, I'm very excited, to share with you about Eleison's Survivor Leadership Council, also known as the SLC. Then, we will share with you about Eleison's participatory arts-based research project, co-led with survivor leaders at Eleison that focus on how to promote survivor leadership in the anti-trafficking movement. Afterwards, towards the end, we'd love to have a discussion with everyone in this room. So I know usually how the keynotes are done is that usually we have these you have these questions, you send them into the WOVA app and they're read here. But we'd like to take this opportunity for this to be an engaging conversation. So we're sharing with you our insights and our learnings, but also if you have your own experiences and insights that you think might be helpful that is related to this topic, feel free to share them in the WOVA app as well. Of course, along with your questions. So the hope is that in this discussion, we can exchange experiences and ideas about centering survivor leadership in our collective work in the anti-trafficking movement. So in the anti-trafficking movement, the biggest influence often lies outside of people with lived experiences or organizations led by people with lived experiences. The truth is that many dominant priorities in the movement are shaped by donors, well-resourced anti-trafficking organizations, and select government organizations. However, the people who are directly impacted by human trafficking, particularly those with lived experiences, know the reality best. Survivors have the best knowledge on what kind of support systems, services, programmings, and policies would actually be helpful. Now, there has been an increasing discussion around the importance of survivor leadership. However, some efforts to promote survivors as leaders have not always been done in a helpful way, with some approaches being tokenizing, exploitative, minimizing of survivors' efforts, and/or simply are ineffective. This leads to many important questions around what really are the most effective and equitable ways to engage people with lived experiences in designing, implementing, and evaluating anti-trafficking policies and programs. And I think this same question or topic was also raised by the beautiful women from Azadi yesterday. So the question is, how do we then collectively center survivors' visions, their own vision, survivors' own vision for survivor leadership, and how do we do so in a trauma-informed, effective, and equitable way? As an organization with operations in Southeast Asia, so again, we're from Cebu, Philippines, hi. And as a member of this regional conference, we're interested in conversations around how to do this, particularly in the Asia regional context. So before we go further, in sharing with you here today, we want to acknowledge all of the extremely important work that has been led by others to advocate for survivors to be centered in the anti-trafficking movement, including leadership and advocacy from people I think we're seeing in this room. There are several resources that we can all read which discuss engaging with people with lived experiences and survivors' vision for survivor leadership. Two particular resources that we would very much recommend for you all to read if you haven't yet are these reports by the Global Fund to End Modern Slavery, the National Survivor Network, and Survivor Alliance. We want to be clear, Chad and I are not here to provide any definitive answers, but rather to share from our own experiences and also to ask questions. Again, we also want to learn from everyone else in this room. Today, we'd like to share with you about some of the recent research and advocacy led by the Eleison Survivor Leadership Council on how to promote survivor leadership in our own context in the Philippines. Our goal is to share some concrete examples from our own experiences of how we center survivor leadership at Eleison. We would very much love to hear from all of you as well.
At Eleison in the Philippines, we have a Survivor Leadership Council, also called the SLC. The SLC is an advisory board which includes people who are survivors of human trafficking and who have completed at least one of Eleison's program. The SLC is part of the executive leadership team at Eleison. The SLC collaborates with other staff and board members to lead the direction of Eleison as an organization, and I'm a proud member of the SLC. As SLC members, we conduct community outreach, co-facilitate activities, and co-lead research together with other members of the Eleison team. The SLC partners with other team members to make sure Eleison's programs and research are survivor-centered. Participations in all of these activities is voluntary. All SLC members can choose how we want to participate and the direction we want to take for our projects and activities for the year. Last year, the SLC began talking about wanting to lead a new research study at Eleison, with us, as SLC members, leading the research with other members on the Eleison staff. As SLC members, we choose the topic for this research. We decided that we wanted to study survivor leadership. What does it mean to be a survivor? I want to repeat it again. What does it mean to be a survivor leader? We wanted to do research to define survivor leadership in our context and to understand from our peers on how can we promote survivor leadership in our context. The goal of this research is to create a framework for survivor leadership that is deeply rooted in the experiences and perspectives of the Southeast Asian survivors. Survivor leaders understand the nuances of trafficking and violence in a way that outsiders cannot. The lived experience of the SLC members gives a unique lens through which to examine the issue, leading to findings that are not only insightful, but culturally relevant and actionable. This research study is not just about generating knowledge. It is about the SLC taking ownership and leadership in a critical conversation.
So we now have a topic. We know that the SLC members who want to conduct a research. So we thought, what particular research method could we utilize to conduct this research? So to do this, we used photo voice. May I ask from the audience if anyone here has experience using photo voice as a research method? Okay, we have one hand. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So for some who may already be familiar with this research method, or for others who are just hearing this for the first time, photo voice is an arts-based, community-based, participatory research method. It is grounded in empowerment theory, feminist theory, critical consciousness, and documentary photography. This approach combines the power of photography with grassroots activism. Through photographs, members of the community take photos to show one's own experience, promote dialogue within the community, and mobilize change that is also led by the community. This approach prioritizes sharing power. It also gives community members the power to control how one's own experiences are presented, which is perfect for when working with survivors. So just to show a brief history, at Eleison, we have a history of leading photo voice research since 2016. Just to be clear, we're not here to share about all of the photo voice research that we have done in the past. However, if anyone is interested, we'd very much love to talk with you more about this, maybe in the coffee breaks or other side conversations or in the WOVA app. But just to share a brief overview, all of our photo voice studies are co-led with survivors. Our first study was a participatory program assessment for one of our programs called Barug. Barug means to stand in our own language in Cebuano. So Barug was an economic empowerment program. Following that, the study focused on creating a survivor-defined framework for how to promote economic empowerment. The third study explored the psychosocial impact of participating in photo voice on survivors. And our most recent photo voice study is the one that Chad and I are now sharing with you today, which is on survivor leadership. So how does the photo voice process look like? In general, there are 5 steps in this process. So the first step is for survivor leaders to take photographs of things that represent the research question. So if you can remember from what Chad shared earlier, survivor leaders at Eleison want to research about what is survivor leadership. So these photos were answers to that research question. After taking the photos, the SLC members wrote personal narratives and reflections on survivor leadership. Next, the survivor leaders gathered around in a team meeting with their peers and began to share photos and experiences with other SLC members. Third, a small leadership team was appointed within the bigger research team. The appointment was also done or decided upon by the SLC members. This small leadership team received training on qualitative data analysis and analyzed all the data with support from other researchers at Eleison. The leadership team did so well. So next, fourth, the leadership team goes back to the bigger group to share the analysis of the data. It's called a member check, just to make sure that the findings of the research are consistent or agreed upon by the rest of the group. Findings were refined according to feedback from the other members. And then finally, survivor leaders share findings in the community and create dialogue around advocating for survivor leadership. So a question that some of you may be wondering about is, again, among the several possible research methods that we could use, why photo voice? And we selected this for several reasons. First, in photo voice, very important, survivors are central to the research process. They're not just participants, they're central in everything. Survivors lead every aspect of the research, including data collection, data analysis, identifying the problem, finding or coming up with solutions, and later on, sharing the findings of the research. Second, photo voice is more than a research tool. It's a catalyst for empowerment among survivor leaders. Through this method, survivors capture the journey and thoughts through images. Therefore, we're using photography to convey or express thoughts that words alone could not convey. These images spark meaningful dialogue, cultivate empathy, challenge misconceptions, and influence key stakeholders. Third, talking about the photos can also create an emotionally safe way to share about one's own experiences in a supportive, trauma-informed peer environment. And fourth, photo voice also explicitly prioritizes social action and advocacy as key outcomes of the research. By amplifying survivor voices, photo voice ensures that survivor perspectives shape anti-trafficking initiatives authentically and meaningfully.
We would like to share with you the findings from our photo voice research on the survivor leadership. You can see in the following slides some of the photos taken by SLC members, and beside the photo are the SLC members' narratives. Our first theme talks about valuing survivors' lived experiences. One of the SLC members took a photograph of this watch to show the importance of survivors' leaders' time. Please refer to the screen and the photo and the narratives. For survivor leaders, the watch demonstrates the importance of our time. Before, all our actions and desires were dictated. Our time for making decisions was limited because we have to rely on other people. But now, we already have a choice and a free will. We can listen to the opinions and ideas of others, but we also have our own voice. As survivor leaders, we also have the ability to be the voice for other survivors in the community. We can speak for them and organize activities that can help them. Our voices and ideas are important because we have gone through what they have experienced, so our ideas are relatable to victims. The community does not yet see and understand the impact of survivor leaders. We have no voice. For example, we are invited to talks about human trafficking, but that's it. We are there only as listeners, and there is no space for us to be heard. Hopefully, survivor leaders like us will be given importance in the community, acknowledging our existence and the needs of survivors. As you can see from the quotations on the screen, the voices and ideas of survivors are highly important. Survivor leaders understand the experience of human trafficking, and they know others who have experienced human trafficking have gone through. Survivor leaders have unique knowledge and perspectives that are relatable to other people with lived experiences. However, the community does not yet see or understand the importance of listening to the lived experience of the survivors. Survivor leaders are often invited to events where we are there as listeners only. The voices of survivors are not heard. A key first step to promoting survivor leadership is to first recognize survivors' unique knowledge, skills, ideas, solutions, and perspectives that are extremely helpful in the anti-trafficking movement and the community. Valuing these unique strengths is the first important step. Our second theme talks about enhanced public recognition of the value of survivor leadership. We can start with individual people valuing survivors' knowledge and perspectives. But this is not enough. We need to grow the public recognition and understanding of the importance of survivors having opportunities and being elevated as leaders. As one of the survivors in our study shared, please refer to the screen on the photos and narratives. In our survivor leadership, we can be the light for other victims who are silent or who are unable to speak because of the hardships of the past of their trauma. If they see that we can do it, maybe it will help them to say that they can do it too. What makes it difficult right now is that we don't feel that we are safe to share because we have not been recognized as survivor leaders. Or if they do recognize us, they don't listen to our whole story, what we have been through and what our needs are. Maybe because the government and other agencies are still prioritizing their own people and programs. It would be nice if we were prioritized too. As survivor leaders, we can lead activities to combat trafficking and advocate for human rights. However, this is very challenging to accomplish right now because survivor leadership, our roles in the community, and the impact of our roles and experiences are not recognized, highlighted, and given importance. Survivor leaders can design and advocate for solutions that truly address the real needs. Survivor leaders can help break the stigma associated with trafficking and encourage others to come forward. Survivor leaders can advocate for policy change that address the root causes of trafficking. Survivors understand the context and can build solutions that work within the social and cultural framework of a particular region. To make this happen, there needs to be a public recognition in the community and the movement that survivor leadership matters to the whole sector. A very important step in centering survivor leadership is survivors' involvement in creating survivor-centered programs. One of the survivors in this research, who is getting her degree in social work, shared the following quotations from her perspective. There are a lot of programs by professionals and agencies, but they are lacking in implementation. It's like we, as survivors, are being experimented on. Like they implement it to see if it is effective. So what if they would involve survivor leaders to know if their programs are effective and see what the needs of the survivors and the community are because we have the experience. We know if a program is effective and what would help the clients. They can directly ask our input about what is needed or what the issues are. instead of creating programs on their own. It's important for survivor leaders to have a voice in the community, to create programs and policies that are truly survivor-centered. We can assist others in answering questions about whether certain activities are suitable for other survivors and if they are genuinely helpful and safe. Not just for the sake of having a program, it is important to have programs for survivors that comes from survivors. Survivor leaders can ensure programs are culturally sensitive, trauma-informed, and support survivors towards long-term well-being. The SLC members wants to see survivor leaders being consulted from the beginning and see programs that are designed and co-designed by survivors. A key challenge that was raised in our research and survivor leadership was the issue of lack of access to professional rules within anti-trafficking organizations, government agencies, community agencies, and other organizations with influence. Survivor leaders have voices, ideas, solutions, passion, and dedication. However, survivor leaders may not be taken seriously by the government officials and other stakeholders without formal rules within key stakeholder organizations. As one of the survivors in this research shared the following narratives. For me, the car shows what I've been through, the struggles and challenges. I think I have come far, but I know that I can go farther. I want to do more things. I can show what I was able to make and that I can achieve more. At present, survivor leadership has come so far. There are more survivors and clients that were helped. There were also some instances that we, survivor leaders, were able to share our experiences so that others could learn and be inspired. However, we need to travel farther distance and there's so much more that we can do. Survivor leaders have voices, but it's not loud enough. The people in the government and authorities take care of the investigation of survivor cases, but in this process, they do not look at the emotional needs and physical protection of the survivors. This is why they are those who are afraid to voice out. We, survivor leaders, want to reach out locally to the barangays, but we go there, they won't believe us. Or if they listen, they won't take us seriously. We have ideas, but no opportunities to share. We want to help, but we don't have the time. We also can't allot a lot of time because we also need to work, and there's no work in the community for us based on us being survivor leaders. Survivor leaders need formal professional rules where survivor leaders can work full-time within anti-trafficking organizations. By holding position of influence, survivors can shape policies and advocate effectively for survivor communities. Survivors in this research express a strong desire to have access to these professional opportunities, but a lack of opportunities available. Another critical aspect of centering survivor leadership is access to capacity building for survivors as leaders. As one of the survivors in our project shared the following perspective. For me, as a survivor leader, you need tools to be a leader. It means that I should be equipped with the skills and knowledge that can help me serve others. Using our experience, we can help survivors directly and we can approach the community to create programs and policies for victims. We are willing, but we are usually afraid to be judged that we have done wrong or that we don't have enough knowledge. This is why it's important that we are also trained so that we will have enough knowledge and so that we develop confidence. It's also important that we learn how to deal with other cases so that we aren't traumatized. If we are better equipped with these skills, we are better able to help others. There is still a great need in the community. We could have been mobilized to go to the community and help in activities that can support victims. We may not be able to stop all the problems of trafficking and abuse on our own, but at least we can help slowly and find a way together we can be part of the solution. Capacity building can equip survivors with skills in public speaking, advocacy, project management, and fundraising, which are all vital for leading effective initiatives. Capacity building programs can connect survivors with mentors, experts, and other advocates. This fosters collaboration, knowledge sharing, and the development of the strong support network. The trauma experienced by survivors can make leadership challenging. Capacity building programs can incorporate training on self-care, trauma management, and mental health support. This ensures the well-being of the survivor leaders and prevent burnout. Formal training and capacity building validate the expertise of the survivor leaders and boost confidence. Investing in capacity building for survivors creates a multiplier effect. It strengthens survivor leadership, builds sustainable anti-trafficking efforts, and ensures the voices of survivors are amplified in the fight for justice.
Okay, we're almost done. So again, since we're close to the slides, and I know questions are coming up later on, so please feel free to share your thoughts as well in the WOVA app. Again, are there some similar maybe themes that you've heard about from your organizations or in your different, or in contexts in from your different countries? We would love to hear them. Okay, so moving on to the sixth theme. According to the research with survivor leaders, within the trafficking movement, anti-trafficking movement, there has been growing discussion of survivor inclusion, survivor leadership, and survivor voice. That has been repeated throughout this discussion. However, while there has been a lot of talk about these topics, one major barrier persists: funding. Survivors in this research express the very significant challenges faced due to insufficient funding. So maybe we could read the slides, the narrative together. According to one participant, this road also shows how far survivor leadership has come. There are more programs for victims, and there are many who have received help. Survivor leaders have also done a lot. If we are only given opportunities, we won't be voices alone, but we will also gain authority to help victims. But there's a lack of funds. We have ideas, but we can't do anything about them. It will be helpful if there are others who will support our programs and who will help with more fundings on the days when we need to plan with other survivor leaders. This is where I see the road of survivor leadership going. There is willingness among us as survivor leaders or as survivors to act, but there are not many opportunities for us as survivor leaders. If survivor leaders are supported, this shows hope. It's not just saying that something will be done without action. Although survivors have ideas, nothing can be done to put these ideas into practice if funding is not available to support these efforts. At Eleison, we have found that it can be very challenging to fundraise for our Survivor Leadership Council for research and projects co-led with survivors, and for all our efforts to ensure that everything we do is survivor-centered. Imagine this, or for example, when Chad here and the other SLC members came up with the idea to conduct this research, there was this great enthusiasm. Everyone from the team were excited, we're ecstatic. When can we start? This is a wonderful idea. Let's go ahead and do this. But the truth is, we needed funding to compensate the SLC members' time and to pay for all of the expenses associated with this important work. We applied, truthfully, we applied for 4 grants. 4 grants. And from these 4, unfortunately, none of these grants were awarded. That's just the case with grants, right? Okay, I'm seeing nodding heads. But because Eleison believes so strongly in the importance of survivor leadership, Eleison decided as an organization to use our own fundings or our own savings to do this research. Well, there are many stakeholders that talk about survivor voice being important. If funding is just not directly allocated to direct action, research, and programming led and co-led with survivors, progress won't be made. As one of the survivors in this project summarized in that last line, it's not just saying that something will be done without action. Funding is needed to make this vision happen. The final theme raised by survivors in this project is the value of collaboration between survivors and allies. There is recognition that survivors want to contribute in a variety of ways. So we want to be clear in case this is a common misconception that we've heard locally in the Philippines, that every survivor wants to take a formal leadership role. But that's not the truth. Some may be interested and some may want to do this work, but others may prefer contributing in other capacities. And either way is completely okay. That is up to the survivor to decide. Survivors in this research called for greater collaboration between survivors and allies in promoting survivor-led solution. The narrative from this photo states, would you like to read it, Chad?
Sure. The net represents our collection of knowledge and experiences. When combined, it molds and demonstrates that we have become leaders. Just like a net spread across the sea, survivors also spread their knowledge with other survivors and community members. The net also symbolizes survivor leaders worldwide. It is necessary to communicate and share different ideas, thoughts, suggestions, and collaborate to address various problems in diverse communities. The net represents the process of brainstorming and the exchange of voices among different survivor leaders to develop actions and programs for other survivors. As survivor leaders, we can also help social workers and other professionals in the community. They have skills and learnings, but survivor leaders, we are carrying with us our experiences. We can learn from each other. They can ask for our help and opinions, and we can learn and be trained by them so that we can directly provide services to other survivors. If we help each other out, it will show that we are supportive of each other in our communities.
Thank you, Chad. So the net shows the importance of survivors being networked with other survivors to collectively share ideas and develop action plans together. This is why we are very excited about the possibility of a regional survivor network in Asia. Hello, Helen, as a mechanism to make this happen. survivors in this project have a vision that survivors can work alongside other survivors, but also can work alongside allies, learning from each other, supporting each other, helping each other, and ultimately working together to promote trauma-informed, survivor-centered programming and policies. So, okay, there we go. Oh, okay, so we have reached the end of our discussion or findings from our photo voice research. And again, all that we have shared with you are based from the findings of the research and also from our own experiences at Eleison. But we want to ignite this conversation. We want to create a conversation where we can learn from each other. I mean, that is what a conference is about, right? So we'd like to share these 4 general questions for reflections, and if you have some ideas, again, feel free to share them. So first, how is your organization taking steps to center survivor leadership and survivor-led solutions in your work? Second, what Asia-based models for supporting survivor-led solutions would you recommend that we all learn from? And we're from different parts of Asia, or actually even different parts of the world. So what has worked for you? Third, what ideas do you have for how we can all collectively support survivor-led solutions within Asia? And fourth, I know that this 4th question may have already been discussed yesterday in the panel and in the other conversations, but maybe something that hasn't been shared yet. Do you have suggestions for how to enact structural changes in the sector, including funding-related barriers? So we'll leave it on the screen, but that's it. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much. We have a few questions, some about the photo voice methodology specifically and some more general. So what were the challenges of the scope of the research, and how did you address those with participants? Did you limit age or gender or education levels, for example?
Okay, so when we first, this particular research on survivor leaders was in a way easier because the survivor leaders came up with the idea already. So we had just thought about the particular research method. Sometimes it can go like a different direction, thinking about what if we conduct a photo voice research, then thinking through who may be the participants in the study and what would be the research topic. So now our SLC members are very smart. They came up with a topic already. We just thought of what research method to use and going on from there. So what we're particularly proud of at Eleison is that our SLC members already come from different backgrounds, different histories, different genders. So we, as much as possible, try to make sure that there is enough representation within the leadership council. So we have different survivor leaders with different exploitation backgrounds, who've been exploited as children, but then also from a different age group. So we have one, for survivor leaders at Eleison right now, they're all adults, so at least 18. I think our youngest is 20, if I'm not mistaken, and then we have one in a more senior role. I think she's 60 plus, so like a huge range, and then mixed gender. So challenges, I think, with doing this is just making sure at the start that there are representatives, so across all of these. We can, for all of the previous photo voice research methods, we just had to go with a different direction. So since it was specific to programming, so they had to be enrolled in that particular program. Or for one that looked into the psychosocial impact of photo voice, it was very important that the participants already had previous experience with photo voice. So it depends on that particular specification or criteria. But here, at least for this one, it was fairly easy.
Thank you so much. moving outside of the photo voice, I'm going to combine two questions. What are some of the kind of key actions that you think mentors should take with supporting survivors who might feel traumatized and stigmatized but would have leadership potential? Or, what are the capacity building and programs that you all have utilized that you have found most effective or most impactful for preparing survivors to be leaders?
Could you please repeat the question? Thank you.
What kind of programs have you found to be most impactful when you're preparing your survivors to be leaders outside of photo voice?
Okay. Okay. So, if you have answers, that's okay. Okay. At Eleison, we try to approach everything conservatively. So we try as much as possible to be trauma-informed in all aspects of our work, in the programming, but also in research. So we're very cautious in taking the steps for survivors, for looking into survivors, being survivor leaders, and then engaging survivors, or in this case, survivor leaders, in different programming or research. So how do we do this? First, we want to make sure that there is collaborative work all throughout. We can share our ideas. It can start from anywhere. So it can come from the staff or the mentors. We may have this idea, what do you think about it? But absolutely no pressure if you don't want or if you don't think it's a good idea. But also just throwing out an open question out there. Is there something that you're interested in? Is there something that you want to do? Is there something that you feel might be helpful for us to look into? There are also other steps that we're looking into, such as evaluation throughout the year. So with the SLC members, we'll make sure that we have these individual discussions in case there are survivor leaders who may not be as comfortable sharing with the group. But then we also have a group discussion where everyone can learn from each other and share thoughts and ideas from there. So in these discussions, we ask, how can we improve the way that we do things? How can we be more collaborative? How can we show more respect? How can we make sure that we center your voices in all of these discussions? So I think starting there, just being open to this conversation and being open to change. And I think, as Helen mentioned, yesterday, it's also as service providers, a time for us to reflect on what is our role in these systems and processes and organizations. When do we need to step back? When do we need to give survivor leaders the chance to step forward?
Thank you so much. Going back to photo voice, what were the data security measures that you used? And did you have any concerns around kind of data theft or data leaks while you were doing the research?
Okay, very technical. I think we can have a whole full conversation just on photo voice, but just very briefly, we want to make sure that, of course, all of the data are protected. So at the start, there are all of the physical measures. So for instance, in order for the materials to be accessible to the survivor leaders, so say during the sharing of the narratives and their photos are all printed out. In that process, even during the printing, the photos were already anonymized, the narratives were already anonymized, and we make sure that, so during the distribution, find your photo and find your narrative because you already know your narrative. And then when we collected it, we made sure that physically there are locked our office is locked, but there are also safe locked places inside our office that only staff can access. But we also follow the usual protocol in research. So also we went through the ethics review locally, in this case from the University of San Carlos. We wanted to check and make sure that if everything was already ethically approved. Other measures include making sure, so in this case, we didn't show any names, but also when we were gathering names, we had asked the survivor leaders to choose a pseudonym or how they would like to be represented in the research, and then everything else was anonymized. So again, there's a lot, but these are just a quick overview of these safety measures.
That's great. Thank you so much. A question here around co-leadership. Do you think co-leadership may be the way forward recognizing that being a survivor does not necessarily equip or qualify someone for leadership, just as not being a survivor does not mean someone should lead. Do you think centering survivor leadership is the way forward, or is ensuring survivor voice and shared leadership a stronger model?
Sorry, could you repeat that last question, please?
Do you think centering survivor leadership is the way forward, or is ensuring survivor voice and shared leadership a stronger model?
Please give me a second. I'll just translate that to chat over here. So, centering survivor leadership is the way forward daw for tanaw mo kanang dapat i-center survivor leadership in general. So, sabi tanaw mo kanang ang pag-center sa survivor leadership is the way forward or dapat ba more mo-lead ang mga survivors with other survivors?
Thank you so much for the question. I believe that at first, co-leading survivor leaders is also important. We will assess them and give capacity building, and then along the way, survivor leaders can lead anti-trafficking efforts.
And also to add, thank you, Chad. Also to add, I think it's also a good point for reflection for individually as service providers, but then also as organizations. Like, where are we in our organizations? I think there was a mention in the keynote yesterday about how eventually there is, I forgot the right term, forgive me for this, stepping out but leaving a legacy. So where are we in that process? Because as on the end of service providers or mentors or those helping survivor leaders, we want to provide as much support as we need, but we want to make sure that they also can stand on their own feet. So it's a point of constant reflection. Where are we in the organization? If we're at a point where we can center survivor voices and survivor leaders themselves, or survivor leaders can take the initiative and just proceed with the whole process with everything, the initiatives from designing, implementing, and evaluation, then that's a perfect opportunity. Why not? Why not allow survivor leaders to do so? But if at the point in these conversations, survivor leaders express, you know what, like as Chad mentioned, maybe we need a little bit more support in capacity building. Maybe we need a little bit more support in thinking through or generating programs because this is very new to us, then maybe we can help each other out. So it's a balance of, it's still centering survivor voices, but if there are opportunities for co-leadership, that is also an opportunity for us to support survivor leaders.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I think final question. Do you think it's important to have country-specific, unified guiding tools for survivor leader engagement in programs and systematic change initiatives?
For me, it is very important to have a specific country initiative for survivor leaders because each country has different culture, different needs, especially different areas of trafficking and
Okay. Thanks, Chad. Okay. So I'd like to add to what Chad shared. There are a lot of differences, but also similarities. And this is why we're having this conversation, right? For instance, just specific here in Asia, or maybe in Southeast Asia, there are already ways that are culture or ways, even faces actually, they're already similar. So we look into those similarities and see which areas can we cross-apply these learnings. Okay, this was actually a very interesting idea that I learned from an Indonesian colleague at the conference. Is this possible that we implement this in the same time in the Philippines? So it's not directly implementing, but first looking into, is this possible? Because there are already similar ideas. But if it's also different, there's no need to also force ourselves to adapt to our particular way, our particular process. So again, I think this is also a point for reflection. What are the areas that where we can learn from each other, as long as we have that open mindset, an open mind, and we can continue conversations, and maybe not forcing each other to, you have to follow this because it really worked for us, or just sharing, this worked for us. It may work for you, but may not work for you. What do you think? And then just exchanging ideas, starting a conversation, seeing where the gaps are, and then from looking and seeing the problems, maybe begin by finding solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.